Before we start, please subscribe, like, and share for more content like this.
Warning: the following videos are very scary JINN stories. Watch at your own risk.
This is a true horrifying story, part 6. This story took place in Dubai in the year 1996, and the real characters of this story are Emirati women. Back in the day, and actually till this day, there's a game called a Ouija board. In Arabic, it's also known as Ouija. It involves a group of players playing in the dark, burn sage, light up candles. They place their fingers on a peck and then ask Ouija questions. Now, there are many videos on YouTube of people playing this game, and every time people play it, they freak out or things go wrong. You would ask a yes or no question, or a question that involves one answer, with everybody's fingers placed on the peck, and the peck will move on its own. When you buy the board, it comes with some sort of ritual that the players must read. I do not advise anyone under any circumstance to play this game. The Ouija board is not a joke. You can do your own research. A group of girls in 1996 decided to play this game. One of their friends brought back the board from the UK after her recent trip. They laughed about this game and doubted that it works. They meet up on a Friday night in one of the girls' houses, light up the candles, and start reading the rituals. They close the light, place their fingers on the peck, and start asking a few questions. But the peck doesn't move. They keep trying for another 5 minutes, and still nothing happened. Until one of the girls asked, "What can we do to make this game work?" The peck slowly moves to the letter Q, U, I, E, and then T, which spells the word quiet. They knew that they had to be quiet in order to play this game. They all freaked out when the peck started moving. One of the girls decided to leave, but her friends forced her to stay and play. They started asking yes and no questions to verify this entity's knowledge. Questions such as, "Are you real? Yes. Do you live with us on Earth? No." Questions kept going and the peck was moving all around. Until one of the girls asked, "Are you going to hurt us?" Yes. The same girl asked, "Are you alone?" No. Because it seemed that first entity was friendly, but the one that is with that entity is not friendly. Now, the rules of the game is do not move your fingers from this piece. Two girls freaked out after that answer and took their hands off. The candles blew out. All of the girls ran out the room and went home terrified, except the last girl that left that room, who later then threw the board game in the trash before completing it. Her personality changed after that day. She's always quiet, barely laughs or smiles. She was not social anymore. Her facial features started to change, and she cut herself off of her social circle. The girl is still around till this day, but no one knows why and who made her permanently change like that. This is a true horrifying story, part 7. This story took place in the UAE in the year 2021. Yes, this year. Hamza, a 19-year-old young man, was out camping and barbecuing with his friends in one of the deserts in the country. After finishing all their activities, they were enjoying the cool breeze in the dark, and then they sat around the fire. It was story time. They told each other stories of paranormal activities they have experienced. The stories kept coming till midnight, when the boys realized it was late and time to go home. Hamza was the only one with a driver's license back in early 2021, so he had to drop his friends back home. Some of them lived in Mirdif, so they asked Hamza to stop at a house over there that is abandoned. Some rumors in the neighborhood move around and say that this house is haunted. The house looked very creepy and old. It was half broken and had a bush that was growing on the top. Nobody was spooked out. Hamza and one of his friends go inside and start knocking on the gate. They wouldn't stop knocking and laughing about the whole thing, until one of the friends told them that it was not a good idea to disturb the demons, but they thought it was funny. They hopped back in the car, driving down the same street, laughing off what they did to that house. Hamza had to drive another block away to drop one of his friends that lived in Mirdif as well. The street they were driving in was so dark, so Hamza tells the boys he's gonna switch the beam on. And one of the boys in the back says, "Imagine a ghost pops up as soon as you open the light." Hamza giggled and switches the beam on. And Hamza froze. He sees an old lady in front of the car with thick skin, pale as paper, wearing a full white dress and had very long hair. A real jinn stares at Hamza and Hamza's friend, the one that was back with him at the house knocking on the door. Hamza and his friend started breathing heavy. Their legs started shaking from intense fear. They were locked tight in their seats and no words were able to come out of their mouths. The creepiest part is the other friends weren't able to see anything. They were confused to what their friends were seeing. He turns the blinkers on and the lady vanishes out of nowhere. On that same night, Hamza drops everyone home and goes straight to bed. In his sleep on that same night, Hamza had nightmares of that same figure killing him. He woke up from fear and told his friend the nightmare story. The same friend with Hamza that saw that jinn had the exact same dream of that lady in white killing him. And since that day, they never messed around with any house that was abandoned. This is how jinns warn you. A'udhu billah. Gratefully, that was just a pinch from the jinns. They never haunted them again. This is a true horrifying story, part 8. This story took place with a Muslim man in the early 2000s in a small village in Sudan. To Muslim and non-Muslim viewers, let me explain what a ghost is in our religion. In Islam, we do not believe in people's spirits. The beings that haunt us are not bad souls of dead people. We refer to them as jinns. They are paranormal beings that live among us, but on a different plane, if that makes sense. They live in their own world. They get married to one another, males and females. There are old jinns, there are younger ones, there are good ones and also bad ones. The bad ones, who are the disbelievers, are known as the shaitans, in English, Satans. There are Muslim jinns, there are Christian jinns, there are weak ones, strong ones, dumb ones, and very smart ones. There are different types of jinns, such as the afrit, the khubth and the khaba'ith, the ghols, and the shapeshifters. The shapeshifting jinns have the ability to completely shapeshift into human form or specific animals, such as black cats, lizards, spiders, and more. In their world, they can see us, but we cannot see them. A Sudanese man that lives and studies in Europe visited his family in one of the Islamic occasions in Sudan. He's not really a big fan of the area he lives in, knowing that a few spots there are haunted by jinns. He has bad childhood memories of seeing figures, listening to kids playing late at night, and hearing strange animal noises. For the first time ever, this man might have seen a jinn closest to its real form, but not quite. The only way you can see a jinn is if the jinn shapeshifted. And sometimes the shapeshifting process is not quite accurate. The animal or the human form might have some faults. On one of the late nights, this man was outside smoking a cigarette, and he started hearing stray dogs barking. Minute by minute, the barks would get more aggressive. He sees a strange-looking black animal that looks like a dog. He notices the stray dogs around this animal are barking at this dog specifically. The animal was moving towards him slowly, staring deep into his eyes. The man froze from fear and drops his cigarette. As the animal kept getting closer, it started looking different step by step. Its size started increasing, its eyes began diluting, and its arms was getting bulkier. He wanted to say the prayers to make it go away, but something was stopping him. This animal kept coming a few feet closer, and then the man saw it clearly. It had arms that looked like human arms, a face of a goat, and a body of a bulky dog. The animal stood up on both legs, and the man shouted the prayer. It drops down and shapeshifts into a small black cat and sprints away. Do jinns actually look like that, the way this author described? Or was that a shapeshifting fault? This is a true horrifying story, part 9. This story took place in the International Indian School in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, in the year 2003. Asim, a 16-year-old Indian student in that school, born and raised in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. On a normal school day, Asim was walking back home alone from school as he lived 5 minutes away. He would walk alone almost every day. It was a hot, sunny day and the roads were empty. Asim suddenly realized that there is someone or something walking right behind him. He sees a very tall woman, about 7 feet tall, covered in black and wearing the niqab, very common attire that women wear in Saudi Arabia. He just took a glimpse and then turned back very quickly without having any other thoughts about that woman, and she was about 150 meters away. As he walked, he asked himself, why was that woman very tall and walked boldly like a wrestler? In that split second, Asim decided to turn his head for one last quick look, and the woman was right behind him. She was able to cover 150 meters in a few seconds. This boy's heart drops. He started walking faster without looking back, as his house was only 50 feet away. He did not want to run because she would know that he's scared. He reaches outside, grabs the handle of the gate, feels safer, and immediately turns around. And no one was there. The entire area was completely deserted, like no one has ever been there before. Now that there are no connecting lanes around the building that Asim lives in, the woman had nowhere to turn. But where is she? It terrified him that she vanished out of nowhere, given the fact that she also followed him 100 meters plus in a few seconds. He just froze and stood there in shock for a whole minute after what just happened. He goes through the gate, turns his head one last time, and there she is, 20 feet away from the gate, staring through his soul with a smile. He was able to tell that she was smiling from the lifted eyelids from the rear ends. As he froze in his spot, staring at this thing, it removes its veil slowly, and the boy sees not a man, not a woman, but a beast-like face, staring at Asim through the gate. After this incident, Asim never walked to school alone for weeks. Until this very day, Asim being in his 30s right now, not knowing what the hell that thing was, and why were the roads completely empty during the time span of this incident. This is a true horrifying story, part 10. This story took place in the year 2019 in Al Ain City, the United Arab Emirates. Mira, a 17-year-old Emirati girl, back then had a 14-year-old sister and a 20-year-old brother that was a police cadet in training. On one evening, Mira's mom was upset with something she did, so she grounded both her and her sister. She took away all their electronic devices, phones, iPads, headphones. On that specific day, her elder brother was reserved back in the training camp, and her father was in Abu Dhabi for work. He only comes back on weekends. So no one was home but Mira, her sister, their mom, and younger siblings. At midnight, the girls decided to go to sleep, so they switched the lights off. As Mira's eyes started dozing off, her younger sister jumped on her bed, frightening Mira, and woke her up. "What's wrong?" Mira asked her sister. As she was crying, she responded by saying, "Something moved my bed." Shivers went down Mira's spine as she heard her sister say that. She stood up and opened the lights. Nothing was in the room. A few minutes later, they hear someone whistling outside their room door. That same person whistling outside the door goes inside the brother's room and slams the door shut. Now they can't see who it is. They can only hear what's going outside in the hallway. They looked at each other scared and confused as their elder brother was not home. A moment later, the same door outside opens and the whistling continues. It sounded very familiar to these girls, but they were certain that their brother is not home, so they started panicking. They had no phones, no iPads to call for help. They're grounded, remember? The back and forth steps of that person outside the room kept going for a solid 1 hour, and the whistling would continue. Doors outside the hallway would open and close. Mira remembered that she had an old laptop in her room. She was able to get a hold of one of her friends from school, and she made her call her mom. Her mom eventually showed up, and she found no one inside the house. After that night, they slept in their mom's room for weeks. Until this very day, they still live in that same house. And on some occasions, a few paranormal events would still happen in their home.